Welcome to What's a Beautiful Life Anyway? I'm your host, Jill Bennett. This is the channel that shares ideas to help you live your best life, because life can be beautiful if you live consciously. Welcome to episode 45 of What's a Beautiful Life Anyway? We all know that to live our best life, we need to be confident, have great energy, and be aligned with our work. With me today is JJ DiGeronimo. I hope I've said that right, JJ. JJ is an award-winning author, a keynote speaker, a thought leader, a career strategist, and a light worker. And her latest book, Seeking, provides 74 key findings to raise your energy, sidestep your self-doubt, and align with your life's work. Welcome, JJ.
Thank you, Jill. I'm so excited about this conversation, and I love the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. We're delighted to have you here today. Now, JJ helps women raise their frequencies and empower their future impact through tried and tested strategies, mindfulness, and energetic practices. And she now passionately strives to help women gain more seats at more tables by sharing the key findings that have helped her and countless others illuminate a path forward. JJ, you 3 books, busy woman, keynote speaker, so many amazing things. What were you doing before you found this passion and your life purpose?
Well, I think I was preparing for it. Little did I know all the things I've done up to this point really have prepared me for the work that I'm doing today. I spent my first 2 decades in technology, most in Silicon Valley. Prior to that, I worked about every odd job you could while I was in college, trying to save up money to go to college and also just support my life at some level because I came from limited means. And I feel like every step of the way, I have taken a nugget with me that has brought me to this point.
Yeah. And that's so true, isn't it? I don't think anything we ever do in life is wasted, because there's always lessons to learn. And even if it's a lesson that's not what you want to do and you want to move on and do something else, I think there's always something positive to take out of every situation that you're in. How did you know that you had to make a change?
I talk about this a lot in my third book. My third book is so different than my first 2 books. My first book was really about moms having demanding careers and how do you juggle little beings in your life and significant relationships and a demanding job that you really love. And so that was the Working Woman's GPS, when the plan to have it all lead you astray. And then my next book, once I went out and started speaking to women's groups about this, women wanted to know how to get promoted, how to find a sponsor, how to get on a board. And so I researched for 3 years. I read over 2,000 documents to really wonder why so many women were in middle management. And that book is really a playbook for women that want to get on a board or get to that executive level. And that's called Accelerate Your Impact. But Seeking is my journey. Seeking is my journey that really happened in my 40s, something that I had so many things I've already accomplished. And I thought at that point in my life that I would feel really good about where I was in my life and have real joy. But the reality was I just didn't. I didn't have the joy I expected. I was overworked. I was lost in my yeses. And, things around me were crumbling. And I feel like I had my own tower moment, or when everything kind of hits the fan. And I was sitting by myself saying, really, like, who am I really without these titles, without this stuff? And why am I on this planet right now? Like, what am I supposed to be doing here? And so Seeking is my journey, incorporated with all the light workers and energy practitioners I work with, and all the questions I've been asking myself along the way that I find many women are asking, because many of them are sitting on the sidelines of their life and they're trying to decide when to kind of lean in. And Seeking has been a great tool for women that have been thinking about doing something different or exploring something different. It gives them not only the tools, but also the confidence.
Great answer. And this is your third book, as you say. And I was going to ask you what inspired you to write it, but I think we've already answered that, because you've gone through this journey. Your previous 2 books basically helped women a huge amount. So this was another way that you could take your experience and help women to go on their own journey and to see what they want. I think so many of us go through that stage, don't we, where it's like, is this all there is? What, this can't be all there is. I've raised my children. I'm in a corporate role, but I'm not happy in that corporate role. And sometimes it's quite hard to walk away from that.
It is. And what I find is the biggest challenge for women, I can give them strategies, I can give them data points, I can even give them like really specific steps they need to do to really land that sponsor or get on that board. But what I find is the biggest challenge for women is self-doubt.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we're going to come on to that in a bit more detail in a little while. But before we move on to that, what lessons did you actually learn while you were writing the book?
Well, I would say a lesson that I've learned quite a few times in my life is that no is just a point in time. It's not no forever. It's just no, not now. And when I wanted to write this book, I put together a book proposal. Now, my first two books, I did not do a book proposal, but this book, I really wanted to get picked up by, a light working publisher. So I went to a writer's workshop. I did a lengthy book proposal, which is really kind of challenging for me because I feel like I co-create my books with the universe. So to write about what I was going to write about was way outside my comfort zone and something I don't even know if I'd ever do again, because I feel like it comes through me, many of the lessons based on my experience. And not only did I get one no to publish this book, I got 6 no's.
Right.
So I feel like many of us, we hear that no the first time and we're like, oh, can't do it. That's not going to happen. But really, if it's something you feel passionate about, and the thing that kept happening to me is women kept asking me questions about things I had in the book. So I felt like that was the universe telling me, publish that book. And the great thing about this book is it took me about 7 months to get it over myself of publishing this book, because I had a lot of self-doubt, like, well, maybe I'm not supposed to publish this book, or why am I not good enough? Or I can't believe nobody picked me up. And I must not be a good writer, and I can't do this, or I'm not supposed to do this. Like, I had all these conversations with myself for months and months. And then one day I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just writing it. I'm going to write it because the universe is here to help me and the world needs this book. And so I started writing it. And as I started writing it, people started coming to me, the right editors, the right way to publish my book. I actually went back and got all the rights to all my books and published them all under my own publishing label so I can help more women get published.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And what I'm sure, I'm just trying to think, I think it was Chicken Soup for the Soul, wasn't it? Where he couldn't get published. I think he had a huge amount of rejections. And then he decided to just think, what could he do? What could he do? And he decided to do 5 things every day to get the word about the book out. And one of them, which was a genius thing to do, was to send a copy for each of the jurors on the O.J. Simpson case. And he said, and that day when they all filed into court, they all had this book under their arm. And of course, it was seen by the press and everybody else. So yeah, I think not giving up is a brilliant lesson, but also knowing that you get those messages, that it is the universe that's helping you write that book, and so many people need it. I'm really looking forward to reading it.
Yes. Well, I will just say too, the world is very masculine heavy right now. We all have masculine and feminine energy. And sometimes things that the world needs, sometimes the masculine energy doesn't really create room for it. So us that really feel like we have things that we want to do in the world, even if it doesn't fit into a perfect box, start doing it. Start writing, start making the phone call, start showing up, start reading the book, start reaching out to people that are already doing things you're interested in. I feel like there's too many of us in the world that have so many amazing gifts that are waiting to be invited.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So going back to the book, who can this book help?
Oh, it really is for women that know there's more to their life's journey, but don't know how to manifest that next step or that next set of steps. It is a very prescriptive book in the way that it gives you real things that you can work through that may be holding you back. And so for me personally, the stories I told myself were really instrumental in how I talked to myself and then what I allowed myself to do. So I've collected a lot of experiences from all the women that are in my network and are at many events, and those could be how you view money. It could be your relationship with your mother. It could be how you decide to move forward in a particular situation based on your spouse or significant other. It talks about mindfulness and meditation and how incredible important that is to really get in the present moment and how to do that in a way that makes sense for you. So I feel like there's 54 chapters, there's 74 key findings, and even people use the book in a way that they just open it up and read what is on the page, and they're using it like oracle cards. Some yoga teachers are using it for mantras at the end of their classes. And I feel like if the book calls to you, it's because you have a frequency that's ready to illuminate the next step on your path.
That's a very good point. And yeah, I love the idea of using it, because at the end of the yoga classes I go to, we always have, a card. We pick one out of a deck, and it's lots of different decks that are used. I think it's a lovely idea to open it up and see what messages you need to have that day. That's a lovely idea. Why is it, JJ, that we find it so hard to find our true path, and connect with our inner light? I was in a corporate role for about 32 years, and I wasn't unhappy and I was doing well, but it wasn't my calling. It wasn't particularly, I just did it and made the most of it. So why do we find it so difficult?
Well, I think for people that have a bigger calling, sometimes it's just figuring out where to start. I think, you have something bigger, but oftentimes it's kind of like, okay, what should I do first? So that's the first thing. And I would say that what I didn't realize is that once I started down my path, that things would come forward for me. I thought I had to get it all figured out before I started. And I felt like I had to know like exactly how it was going to unfold. And the reality is the how is not where we should be focusing. It's what am I curious about and what do I want to run towards today? Because everything is a series of steps, and most people start off the side of their desk and just explore or attend or create or do off the side of their desk. And that's actually what I was going to call the book, off the side of her desk. But a lot of people are like, well, what does that mean? And the reality is that we're seeking for the alignment for us. What should we do next? So the first thing is just like really kind of how are you going about it mentally? The second piece for people is not doubting their gifts. I think so many people think their gifts are so common that, oh, I have this wonderful woman who is an amazing chef. She's never been trained culinary, like in a culinary school, but she's an incredible chef. And she has not yet leaned into that because she's like, well, everybody can cook this way. Well, I can't cook that way. And I know a lot of other people. And sometimes we overlook our gifts and the uniqueness of them, I should say, of them.
Yeah. And I think that's so common, especially for women. Most men can, big themselves up. But I think for women, it's much, much harder to do that and to think, as you say, that their talents don't mean anything. Let's break down some of what the book can help with. So first of all, raising your energy. Now, some people listening might not yet have tuned in to what is meant spiritually by energy, and they might be thinking it's about being more energetic. So explain to us exactly what you mean about energy.
Yeah, so I think of energy like an old radio station, right? So I think of it, in fact, FM radio stands for frequency modulation. So like is your energy at a 92.7? Is it a 95.8? Is it a 99.4? 102.7? It doesn't really matter where it's at, but is that energy level working for you? Are you getting the conversations that are supportive of you? Are you working in a field or in a position or an opportunity that inspires you? I find that so many of us go through our days working and aligning to things that really deplete our energy. And so, a quick thing you can do is just kind of as you move from thing to thing in your day, whether it's phone calls to PowerPoints, maybe you're just have meet up with a bridge group or a card group, or maybe you help out at a library or you do a side job. It doesn't matter what's on your day, but just mentally think, does this fill me up or does this deplete me? Is this a plus in my life or is this a minus? Is it depleting my energy? Or is it filling me up? So I just think about as I go through my day, plus, minus, plus, minus. You want to have more pluses than you have minuses. And a lot of us have to do stuff for our family, our neighborhood, things we've committed to that, are minuses sometimes, but you have to have enough pluses to offset that. I know there were times in my life where I had a lot more minuses in my day that were depleting my energy than pluses. And I just wasn't that happy of a person and I wasn't attracting good energy. So, energy is really about you. How are you moving through the planet? Are you enjoying your choices? Are you thinking about where you're spending your time? Are you aligning the things to things that matter to you? Because we all have things we need to do while we're down here, and many of us get sidetracked on other people's initiatives. So, really understanding where are you aligning your time and does it give you good energy? Meaning you're joyful, you're happy, you're appreciative. And I think it's just really important. And if you're not happy, appreciative, and joyful, if you're a practicing polluter, right, you're constantly commenting on why things aren't going your way or what horrible things happened that day, then you've got to really work to autocorrect because your energy defines where you're going to go in life.
Yeah, I love the analogy with the radio frequency. That's such a good way of explaining it. And yeah, it made me think of something there. So this morning I had a personal training session. And also sometimes when I've got a yoga class booked, like last night, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I do yoga every evening. And sometimes when it's really hot, I don't want to go. But I force myself to go because I know I feel so good at the end of it. So I think sometimes, although we don't feel good about it, the outcome we know is going to be good because we know we're going to feel great and peaceful and everything else afterwards. But that's such a great way of putting it. So the next bit of the book that sort of spoke out at me was self-doubt. And I thought, there are things I do in my life that I sometimes wonder why I'm doing them. Do we always know that we have self-doubt, or how can we realize that we have self-doubt?
Well, I guess if you're sitting here listening, think about the last thing that you thought you wanted to do, whether it was a trip. Maybe you're going to go to a course. Maybe you're going to start something from scratch or engage in something that interests you. Think about that for a minute. And then think about what you said to yourself after that. Because I have a lot of women that want to do something different or have more impact in areas they already are working within. But when they say, oh, I want to, or I want to sign up for this, or I want to do this, the first things they say to themselves are often not that supportive. In fact, when I started my first women's group or wrote my first book or even started my first retreat, my self-talk sounded like this. Who do you think you are? This is never going to work. You're not prepared for this. You're going to spend too much money. You're going to look foolish. Nobody's going to come. That's what my self-doubt says to me. And so it wasn't until 2016 that I was sort of guided to take mindfulness courses, which was very challenging for me at first because I really pride myself on being a doer and getting things done. So to go sit in this course and do nothing, essentially, and learn how to be in the present moment and just be an observer of your thoughts, an observer of life, and just really ground yourself in the moment that you're in seemed super unproductive to me and really kind of goofy. But I finally came around after months and months of going to mindfulness and realizing that it was the greatest gift because it allowed me to be in the present moment, which gave me so much more awareness and insight to what was happening in my life. But also it gave me a bird's eye view of how I talk to myself. And I know I'm not alone because I've asked women from, one side of the world to the other, how many of you have self-doubt? And almost everybody does. And then my question is, how many of you pay attention to it or let it allow you to impact your decisions? And I would say 75% of women raise their hands.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, how we talk to ourselves. It's I've been a work in progress for a number of years, so I like to think I'm almost there. But I know friends I have, and I have to say to them, you know, they'll go, "I'm so stupid." No, you're not. You are not. Think of the things that you've done, you know, and I really give them a pep talk about why they should never say that to themselves. But yeah, I appreciate it's
Wow.
very hard. I think this book is
And
going to be an amazing help for so many people, so many people. Um, we've sort of touched on this a little bit, but the people who are stuck in a job that they might not love, and we can also read that to be relationship with that narcissist or whatever, um, and they stay because either they don't think financially they can be without the guy, or they stay in the job because it pays well. But deep down inside, they know they'd like another partner, or they'd like to be on their own, or they want another job. How can they find the courage to make that change and work out what their life's meant to be like, and how they can make themselves happy?
well, it all starts with you. And honestly, it all starts with your frequency or your energy. So, what can you do to start working on elevating your frequency? And for me, one, it's how I talk to myself, just being aware of it to say, okay, I know I'm talking to myself in a negative way. I'm going to compartmentalize that. I'm going to put that over here and I'm going to just keep going. And, a couple books that I love and a couple of suggestions are, Jen Sincero's You're a Badass. She always says, I'm just going to see what I'm going to do. Let me just see. So there's not a lot of pressure to have these amazing results, especially for things you've never done before. So that's one thing. Pay attention to what you watch, what you read, what you listen to. Is it draining you? Is it negative? Is it fearful and worryful? Pay attention to what you say to other people, right? You could be great and joyful for 2 hours a day when you're in yoga and maybe, you're reading a book, but do you go to the grocery store and about want to, take off someone's head? Like really mind your energy because that's super duper important. That's the first thing. And if you think about it, and if you are familiar with Tina Turner, I mean, how she got out of that situation is she started meditating and following Buddha and doing all these things. You have to strengthen yourself from within to shift your external.
Yeah. The whole meditation thing changed me. I mean, that was probably about 12 years ago. And the other thing for me is gratitude. So it's
Yes.
when I'm going to sleep at night, I have to think of at least 3 things I'm really grateful for from that day. And how, the next morning when I wake up, I always say how grateful I am that I've woken up to another day. And I think, yeah, for me, gratitude is a really important one. Yeah.
Mm,
Um,
I agree. I
yeah.
talk a lot about gratitude in the book and exactly how to do it because I feel like even it's hard to even figure out where to start. And honestly, it's one of the things like if I feel myself being negative, I completely shift to gratitude. What are 10 things I can pick right now? And it could be just the sun on my face, right? Hot coffee in my hand, the clean pillowcase. Like it doesn't have to be these huge things that many of us wait for all of our life to participate in. They're just the everyday things that make our lives enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah. The Jen, You're a Badass. I love that book. And another one that's a really good is The Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker. Yeah, and he talks about gratitude a lot, doesn't he? I love that one too. Okay, so we are running out of time, JJ, but you have kindly mentioned some bonuses and a sample of the book that's available for people to see if it is possibly for them. I can't imagine anyone it wouldn't before, but can you tell us how they could get hold of that, please?
Yeah, so I'll give you some links for the show notes for some of the free courses, like 10 reasons you should explore mindfulness and the power of no class I have, which really helps you hone in on your schedule that allows you to really pick the things that should be on your schedule and let go of the things that should not be there anymore. So I'll give you those links, but you can always go to my website, JJ DiGeronimo, and download the first few chapters of the book to check it out, or you can jump over to Amazon and look up Seeking 74 and JJ, and you can read the great reviews. I am amazed like how many women have, signed up for their yoga certification, left their job after 24 years, have gotten out of, really toxic relationships after reading this book. And so I am so proud of the book, but I'm also so excited it's in the world.
I think it just sounds amazing. I think it's going to help so many people. JJ, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank
And I
you.
look forward to seeing you in person.
Yes, we'll have to organize a retreat here.
Yes, I would
Definitely.
love that.
Yeah. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's show. Check out all the links to the resources mentioned in today's episode and all my freebies in the show notes. See you next time.